players. I mean, running pick and rolls with LeBron James is pretty special, and Kevin Love, and even Tristan Thompson and Channing Frye. I mean, those guys are good players too. They really spread the floor, and yeah, he's had good pick and roll counter partners so far in his career.
Danny, Jalen said he had a conversation with you. I think he said yesterday about what happened over the weekend with the president on Friday and what happened yesterday with the NFL stuff. Your thoughts on the weekend and that conversation with Jalen and where you might be heading as an organization?
So yeah, I had conversations with Jalen. Jalen's fun to talk to, as all the players are. We have conversations about all these types of issues individually and sometimes collectively when it needs to. But I love hearing the perspectives of our young players, and just want to make sure that we're on the same page. We support our players, and everybody. What makes the world fun is different opinions and diversity. But I just want to make sure that our guys are, together on if they have any team plans or anything like that. But Jalen was was asking a lot of questions, and we had a great conversation about the issues of today.
Does that speak to his maturity? When he's talking about texting the team over the weekend, the guy that's not even 21 yet, does that speak to his maturity level already at that young of an age?
Yeah. I mean, Jalen he wants to learn. He loves to learn, and he's a guy that's always asking questions. I appreciate that in him.
Danny, was he named the union rep or the player rep?
I don't know that. I'm not sure that's a blessing. That's a curse. I served as union rep for too many years.
You think back to Red at all, of what he went through, because that was the civil rights movement in the 60s, and he had all these guys like Russell, and obviously there was a deep connection with Red and Russ, and now you're in Red's role in many ways, and communicating and existing with these players.
Yeah, I mean,
I
learned a lot from Red. Red, I think that was his greatest strength, was communicating with the players and talking, like managing guys with big egos and superstar potential, and is not easy. And I thought the way that Red handled our players when I was there, just his relationship that he had with Russell and Havlicek and Kuzi and all those guys, and then to see how he interacted with our team in the 80s, it was very impressive. But he was just easy to talk to. It wasn't like he thought he knew all the answers. He just, but he had some great counsel.
Final couple questions for Danny.
Danny, the Cavaliers-Celtics rivalry, I mean, obviously you lived through probably the greatest rivalry in the history of the NBA. This is going to be pretty special, isn't it, this rivalry coming up the next couple of years?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope it'll be a great rivalry. Yeah, that'll be fun. Rivalries are fun. That means you're playing really well, and the games mean something.
Last question for Danny.
What's your handicap now?
7. If we're betting.
2 if we're not.
Thank you, Danny.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I think Al is, he played a real big part with us last year, and he brings a lot of leadership and unselfishness, and I don't think it's a coincidence that so many of our perimeter guys had the best years of their career last year. I think Al, the way he plays, how unselfish he is, and his experience and his ability to take over at times. And but I think Al's play last year, and he's the kind of guy that has a reputation around the league. The guys do want to play with him.
Danny, Marcus lost 20 pounds. Did the organization want him to lose weight? Did you instruct him to lose weight?
Yes. But listen, Marcus wanted to also. I mean, Marcus knew and he's worked extremely hard. Jay Larinaga spent a ton of time with him this summer, as did Johan, and working with him on his eating and sleeping and his work, and his basketball development. And I credit Marcus mostly for you know, just really wanting it, putting in the time, and it's refreshing to see and fun to see that, you know, he's got a little bit of confidence in it. You know, he's wearing his tank top around, sometimes takes his shirt off, and then Marcus, put your shirt back on. We see the six-pack, okay, but seriously, it's fun to see him. You know, he's got guys throwing alley-oops to him and pick up games, and you know, when they have a timeout, and so that's fun to see, and I'm hoping that leads to a great year for him.
At Oklahoma State, Marcus was a really terrific average finisher, drawing fouls, absorbing contact. Do you expect that weight loss will kind of help him return more towards that than he was in college?
Well, I mean, I think that being in great shape helps any player, but Marcus has been a terrific player for us. Even when he was heavy, he played well. He just wasn't as consistent as he can be if you're in great shape. And like I said, he's put a lot of time into that this offseason.
Danny, can you talk about, I mean, it's been such a wild offseason and so many changes, but the challenge that's in front of this team right now with Brad and all the new faces for all the talent we have?
Yeah, so, you know, it was, I don't know, 2.5 years ago, we brought in a lot of new players mid-season. And, you know, we had the same questions, you know, how are we going to respond? But I think that the two things I see in common of how quick that team was able to gel 2.5 years ago was, obviously there's some talented players, but there was a hunger from each of the players that I think is sometimes underestimated. Obviously it's going to take time for Brad to figure out exactly who plays best with each other and so forth, but I think that enthusiasm, that excitement that each one of our players have right now is unique and special, and we have some very special, talented players. So I think that sometimes can make up for the continuity, although I will say that playing together, the longer they play together, the better they should get.
Danny, you're pretty straightforward about it being a business, but you also recognize chemistry. When you lose Avery, and Jay, and Amir, and Isaiah out of the locker room. Kelly, right. I think talk about your thought process about that, how teams can gel.
Well, I mean, obviously those guys were terrific players for us, and some of my favorite players that, you know, I've watched and been around in my time here. So those decisions are not easy at all. But this team, we had a chance to get some players this year that we like also, and that we can have some continuity with. We don't plan on doing the same thing next summer. I plan on getting down to about a 1 handicap next summer is my goal. But this summer, you know, we did a lot of things to change the roster, and it wasn't because we were unhappy with our roster. It was some of it is in just managing the salary cap and future contracts, and a lot of deals are done that way, and you know, and adding players like we did in Kyrie and Gordon this offseason.
Danny, there was some reports about you bringing in Thomas Robinson for a workout, also working with Andrew Bogut when he was a free agent. Are you okay where the bigs are on this roster, or you want to add somebody else?
I don't know. Well, right now I'm okay. Yeah, we haven't played a game yet, but yes, right now I'm fine. So, you know, like, listen, there was I can tell you a little bit about my thinking in that, is that oftentimes coaches and fans and everybody, you know, are in a real rush to get extra players and fill that 15th roster spot. I mean, you can't believe how many phone calls I've had on that 15th roster spot. But I've learned over the years that, you know, I want to see who we have first. You know, there's some good players still out there that we've considered all of them. We've had them in for workouts, we've talked to them on the phone, we've addressed some of the concerns that we may have and how they may fit in, but I want to see where our players are, because so often we've had 15 or 16 players with guaranteed contracts come into training camp, and sometimes the young guys get left out and don't get an opportunity to even see where they are. So if you remember when we had the Paul and KG thing, Paul and KG and Ray coming in, you know, everybody wanted us to sign an experienced point guard. And I refused to do that because I wanted Rondo to get a chance. And I think that a veteran point guard would have prevented him from getting the chance that he ultimately got. And so I'm not saying that we have Rondo. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just saying I want to see who our guys are before we make those decisions. And there will be decisions to be made as the season goes on.
Dan, have you communicated with Marcus Morris at all the last couple of weeks? And do you have any sense on, you know, obviously you don't know how the trial is going to end up, but where a situation might be and how you guys might move forward?
Yeah, so I think a few of his teammates and Brad and myself have all been in contact. And Mike Zarin was out there during the trial last week. So yeah, we've been in touch with Marcus continuously throughout this process. Was that your question? Or?
Just kind of like a plan B in case he misses extended time, or you know, if the trial is not complete yet as of now, and camp starts tomorrow and that sort of thing.
Right. So no plan Bs. I mean, we're just waiting like everybody else to see what happens there, but we feel good about what will happen. At the same time, we understand what possibilities exist, but we've been keeping close tabs on the trial.
Danny, as the guy who was responsible for the future of this franchise and kind of the transition period after you traded KG and Paul, is what has transpired over the last few years, was it part of a master plan, or was it have the assets and be ready to strike when we could?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, there's players all around the league, obviously, that are fantastic players that we've tried to acquire unsuccessfully. I said this many times, we tried to get Kevin Garnett, 3 years before we ended up getting him. But it's hard to find partners to make deals with. But if I were to say that this is the team that we had masterminded 2 or 3 years ago, that's not true. That's impossible. So we've tried to acquire many players over the last few years. But we're excited about these guys. We're excited about adding Gordon and adding Jason Tatum and adding Kyrie and Aaron Baines and Marcus Morris. We're excited about the new team that we have and looking forward to it.
Going back to what you were saying about Horford earlier, the track record he showed last year to really bring the best out of the perimeter players, did that motivate you more to see Kyrie's the growth that he could have is greater playing next to Al?
I don't know. I mean, we had some pretty good players last year. It wasn't like a motivation to get rid of those players. It was, but we do like what we see in Kyrie. I mean, as an opponent and as a player that I think can still get better. I don't think he's reached his peak yet. I think that he's entering his prime, and I'm very excited about it. He's been a guy that, to his credit, has been able to play some 2-guard and some point guard, but he grew up being as a point guard. But I think that what he's learned playing in Cleveland with LeBron handling the ball a lot, I think is going to benefit him here, because we have guys like Gordon Hayward and now Horford we can run offense through that will require him to play off the ball as well.
Do you think even using him on the ball, that the versatility that presents with Horford and running the pick and roll between the two of them, that he can do things that he wasn't able to do in the past?
I don't know. I think he's had pretty good success in the past with the players he's played with, and they're all really good players.